Hello, all. Bonjour, bonjour. Oops. Hi, y'all. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous sunny day in Paris. Get back a little farther. Hopefully, you all can hear me. It's a little too close here. I am here today at the Hotel de Ville. Hi, Jean. I'm over here today. So, this is going to be a little ambitious today because I kind of came out today to walk this only because it was so beautiful out this morning and I just thought I'd get a little walk in. But we got a lot of ground to cover. So we'll see. I'm ambitious we will get to the end of it. So we shall see. But I'm here at the Hotel de Ville and I'll go ahead and just jump right in since we have so much. And when I got here just about half an hour ago, they have this little event set up. And I don't think these are pieces of the actual AIDS quilt that was done so many years ago. Um, but there's kind of these little banners that are really beautiful and heartbreaking because these are all people that these are made for that have passed away from HIV, AIDS. But here is the Hotel de Ville. So we're starting here at the Hotel de Ville today because today, 152 years ago, on this exact date, it was on Sunday, May 21st, 1871, that the Bloody Week began, known as the Commune. And so that was, I will tell you a little bit more about that once we get walking here. But the Hotel de Ville, which is so big, I can't get it, I can't get the top of it into the picture. And I feel like I'm about ready to sneeze. So you can see a little bit more of the building. But this building, I love the Hotel de Ville. It is a very different building from a lot that you see in Paris because it is of the Renaissance style. Specifically, this version is of the Neo-Renaissance. The original one was built, the first stone was laid on July 15th, 1533. And it was under Francois Premier because he wanted something that was more reflective of the Renaissance. He adopted and transformed it from the Italian Renaissance to, of course, the French Renaissance. I mean, he was the French king. And the first architect was Domenico Baccardo, an Italian. That seemed to have passed by with flying colors. But it wasn't finished until 1628. So the southern part here that you see towards the Seine side. This was all done on this side was done under Francois Premier and then his son Henry II. So between 1533 and 1551. The north side over here was done under Henry IV and Louis XIII between 1605 and 1628. It was 1628 when it was finally finished. The wars of religion put a pretty big stop to it and then was finally finished. And up here in the very center of it, you have the clock tower. And in the clock, on right above the clock up there, you could see, I'll go try to zoom in there. You have the allegory of Paris, of course, Paris. And on either side of the clock is labor and instruction allegories. And then on either side of those, laying down, are the allegories for the Seine and the Marne. And then up at the very top of it, you have prudence and vigilance. And then down here, where that child is, if I was closer, I'd yell at him. On the left is science, and on the right is art. But you also see you have the rings for the Olympics. Those have been here since last year, since the last Summer Olympics closed. And then the Paralympics is there on the right. But those children should not be climbing on that. I would yell at them if I was closer. But the building is gorgeous. On May 23rd, 1871, this building was destroyed by the Commune. And we'll go over how all that happened as we start walking because we have a ways till we get to our next spot. But on the building, I love this building. It was rebuilt in after the Commune. It started to be rebuilt in 1880, and it was done from the original plans of the actual Hotel de Ville. So what you see today is very reminiscent of the original one. Inside of this one, though, what was sadly destroyed when it was burned in 1871 was 2 rooms. Look at those 2 people having their own little intimate moment there. Was destroyed was rooms that were completely painted by Delacroix, Ingres, Charles Lebrun, and they were all destroyed. Nothing of those remain, except for there's a few sketch drawings that Delacroix did that you could see actually in the Musée Delacroix. Don't forget your Louvre tour. Tickets always get you in there the next day for free. And on the outside of it, you have over 300 statues. So, including those little soldiers up there on the top, you have all of these great men and women of France. You've got scientists, mathematicians, you have politicians, artists, writers, everyone. And there's even a few women up there, including George Sand. You have Marie Curie up there. Vigée Lebrun. And of course, right over there, we have Notre Dame. So we're straight across from Notre Dame right now. So that's why when the fire happened, um, the Hotel de Ville came where this is where everything was brought from the treasury and everything that they saved. But it's a really beautiful day in Paris today. I am wearing just something short sleeve and it's toasty. And it's going to be 70s and maybe even up to 80 this next 10 days. So that's exciting. This looks like some sort of party bus, which actually looks like my worst nightmare. Make sure we're not going to get killed here. Oh, now it's my turn. So we're going to make it all. The plan is to take us all the way down to the Hotel de Ville. Or not, we're just leaving the Hotel de Ville. We're going to get all the way down to the Orsay. So we got to hightail it down through here. But thanks, guys, for joining. I hope it's nice wherever you are. It's already practically the end of May. Things are going to get warm for the summer, I think, and busy. Things are already, the Louvre line is already starting to get back into the far side of the courtyard of the Cour Napoleon. We're going to actually walk through there because, anytime I could fit the Louvre into something, I was going to go along the quay, but this is a little easier path to get through. And then Tour Saint-Jacques. So the commune itself was actually a branch of the government after the siege of Paris by the Prussians, and Mr. Napoleon III turned himself in with the siege. They created a new government was created, and that government was very far right wing. And Adolphe Thiers was named to the head of that, if they right over here, you have the Tour Saint Jacques, which is where we walk all the way down into Spain, Compostela. You can start it from here, from the Tour Saint Jacques, which is where you will see along the Boulevard Saint Michel, you will see all of the bronze markers of scallops. So when that happened, the siege ended in January of 1871. There was an armistice, and with that, they said they would no longer occupy Paris. And so, in turn, the very left-leaning National Guard came in and oversaw Paris. John, I couldn't see all of that message, but I saw that you're going to be here. But I will check it afterwards, or send me a message, private message on Facebook or Instagram, or an email, Claudine@ClaudineHemingway.com. Anyway, so we're heading right over towards, we're going to walk through the Châtelet, not the horrible Châtelet Metro. We're walking through the Place de Châtelet. And the palm column here. Read them across here. Let's see it here. It's a lot more construction. They're doing work on all of the fountains. Much of the fountains is in the Saint-Sulpice. That one hasn't started yet. But here you have the Châtelet column. And this replaced a palace that was here that was actually used as a prison and a court. And Napoleon actually had it destroyed. And then Napoleon had this built. You'd guess that you should understand that from a nice big old eagle up there. But it was all done to glorify his battles. And if you look all the way up, it says Austerlitz, Arcourt. They have all of his battles that he fought in. And they actually ended up moving this entire thing, rolling it 20 meters to where sits right now. Across the way, we have the Palais de Justice, which was also burnt by the Commune in 1871. They really went through all of Paris. So when the left-leaning National Guard in Paris stood up and started to say how the government was wrong, the Versailles army, which was the army, because Adolphe Thiers actually left and went to Versailles, much like good old Louis XIV did. So while he was there, the army got together and said, we have to get these National Guard under control. And at the time, Paris, each district, much like today, there is a mayor of each arrondissement, except for now the first and the fourth are combined. But they had somebody in charge of each district. But there was not one governing body over them. So like now today, you have 16 mayors, and you have Anne Hidalgo, who is the main mayor over all of them. So, well, each one might have their own ideas and the way they run. There's still one that oversees all of them. So, while Paris was very separated politically from all the other parts of France, which you could still say it very much is today, but it was in Paris, everybody was separated. So it was quite the, look how pretty all these flowers are. So it was quite the debacle at the time. Oh, hi there, little hedgehog. Look at how pretty this is. Put my head in here for you. Look at all those pretty baskets. I've seen those in a few restaurants now. That must be the new thing. Instead of all of the, hopefully all of these dumb fake flowers everywhere. And now it's going to be baskets, which I think will be better. But as long as those bears go away too. Oh, look, I just where I could come back and get my red geraniums from my window like my grandma had. Maybe not those big ones. And the chances of them surviving are slim to none. Look at, you could get some bulbs here and it smells amazing. My mom would know what all these things are. I know what those are. That's about it. Oh, and these aren't these little, look how cute those are. So when the government, when the army, the Versailles army came marching into Paris and the Commune was standing up against them, they first came in through the 16th. And bonjour. They first came in through the 16th. And, oh lordy, this was the wrong choice to make walking through here. They started basically putting up barricades, trying to block them. And so with that, they decided they would start to burn things. So on the 21st, they had not started to burn things, but by the 22nd, they did. So they started to light things on fire. And these things weren't like today. It wasn't like today when we have these things, which we haven't had, which hasn't been, knock on wood, too bad the last few weeks because the vote that they were all against went through. So it's not much to get upset about now. Well, there always is here. But when that was going on, and people, they were just kind of troublemakers that were just lighting things on fire. For the commune, this was orchestrated burning. They were actually doing this to prove a point and to slow them down. So the commune had set up in the Palais des Tuileries, and we're gonna go down to where that was and what remains of that. But as they would go to these places, they would bring in barrels of oil and turpentine, as well as gunpowder. And with that, they would douse curtains, carpets, everything with the oil and turpentine. And in the middle of it, they would put these kegs of powder. And then they would do this and light it on fire. And so everything would be torched and torched quickly and burn everything. So the Hotel de Ville, the Palais de Justice, which is on the Ile de la Cité, was burned. The Palais de Justice wasn't done. It wasn't too bad. They even went into Notre Dame, and here we saw this last week. Still here in the wonderful Samaritan, and you have all of the. I still need to go in there because they have like a little cafe, but I want to see the little museum because I see the graphic artist that does amazing, amazing pieces with the Arabic language. He did a scarf for them, and so I want to go and see it. Show you that window here. So, but they would torch these things, so they would instantly just burn and burn quickly. So there was no way for them to stop them. Hi, hi, red truck. So, but they went into Notre Dame. Bonjour. They went into Notre Dame and lit up, tried to light up chairs and benches, but they were quickly distinguished. But they were put out, but they stayed pretty much away from churches. So Saint Chapelle, all of those churches, unlike the Revolution, all of those things were spared. And I'm gonna go to here. I was gonna go all along the quay, but because it is also windy, it might be hard to hear. So we're kind of going this back way. And here on this side, we have the back side of Saint-Germain-l'Auxerrois, which I love. And actually, making really good time. Actually, going up this street, we cut through a tiny bit. And the house. We're on the back side. So if you come in here to Samaritain and you eat upstairs, there's a restaurant up there. And the restaurant overlooks the cafe here. And it's pretty cool. And there's a whole rooftop. So this part on the right here, this side, that is the Cheval Blanc Hotel. And this is the Samaritain, which is really beautiful. It is owned by LVMH, largest luxury company in the world. And it is basically that's everything it sells in there. So it has even the Picot and the what? You know, but they pretty much, with the Commune and the Bloody Week, they were doing this, and it was all completely orchestrated. They had men that were in charge of actually making the order. So it was all very planned out. And the people that did organize and order the destruction were later held accountable. Most of them had fled Paris and France. Here's the tour. Oh, Debbie, it's not on my side. It might just be the connection. Um, I do need to get a new phone. I'm trying to hold out till the new ones are out in September, but I might not be able to wait. Um, Here, the beautiful Saint-Germain and the bell tower here. Hopefully, maybe it just gets better in a minute, Debbie. Nice to see you and Ron. So the Tuileries, the Palais de Tuileries, where they had been staying, they basically did all this stuff on the late night of May 22nd, 1871. And then as they left that night, they just basically torched it. But the Louvre, we talked a few weeks ago when I talked about the men who and the people that saved, the men and women and the people that saved. I tried to see on here if there was a setting on YouTube where I could do it so it would film it in a even higher resolution, and I couldn't find it, but I'm gonna look into that a little bit more. But when we talked about Barbette de Jouy and the men who saved it, so the only time the Louvre was really ever in danger of being destroyed by fire was with the Commune. And it was that night when the Tuileries started to burn because the Tuileries were created by Catherine de Medicis, and the Grand Gallery was built by Henry IV to link the two together. Here's one of my favorite little secrets up there. So if you look up there at the very top, hopefully you can see it. Let me zoom in. I could zoom in a little. Can't zoom in. But the very top, it is the face of Napoleon there in the center. And when Louis Philippe came and took over Paris, he wanted to get rid of Napoleon. So all they did was put a wig on him and thinking that that made him look like Louis XIV. Sadly, it does not. But I love this. I love this door. The Louvre is supposed to be adding this back in as an entrance to get more people into the museum quicker. They definitely don't need to get more people in, but to do it quicker. But what I did learn recently, so this would be the door, and this goes into the Egyptian section. But this, what I learned the other day, okay, shouldn't stand. I tried standing inside there and that wasn't good. I lost you. So hopefully let me know if you guys are back here. Sorry about that. It's really funny. The signal around the Louvre isn't actually too great, probably because the art in there is sucking it all up. So I was saying, the little back under the pavilions after Louis XIV and at the beginning of the 19th century, those areas had little stalls set up that art suppliers would sell things because the Louvre was now where the artists lived. So you had quite a few of them. That is one of those huge things I want to know more about. And so I think I'm going to message my contact at the library in the Louvre and they will find information for me. But after Louis XIV up and left, he let artists move in there. They moved the academies in here as well. So the academies of arts and science and letters, everybody moved in here. That's a super cute dress. Let you listen to the music as we go through here. Which side doesn't look as busy? So yesterday morning when I was leaving the Louvre, it was about 11 o'clock, and I was walking to the front carousel side, and then I decided to cut back through here, and I saw all of the military guys with their big guns that stay around here, and they started to kind of move around in a circle, and I saw a bunch of security people moving people away, and so I was trying to figure out what was going on, and it looked like it was somebody left a bag sitting up there at the little kind of, see how these little boxes, these kind of little boxes with lights in it, marble boxes around the area. They weren't evacuating the people waiting in line or anything, so I don't think they were too concerned about it. Um, but they were pushing everybody out of the way. I don't think anything, I think it was just somebody forgot their bag because I didn't hear anything else about it. But here, the Cour Napoleon, sorry, very busy. So the one thing that did happen to the Louvre in the Commune is this entire side of the Louvre, the Richelieu wing, this was all built under Napoleon III. So all this, come on, go up. All of this kind of going back to right here at the Pavillon Colbert, Pavillon Stephen Colbert, I always think of. But the Pavillon Colbert, this was all created under Napoleon III. And so this wasn't even very old. So it was done in about 1863. And in 1871, they ended up coming in here on May 23rd, and they ended up coming over to this section. The entire Pavillon Richelieu was the library, and it was destroyed. So they set fire to that. The entire thing burned, destroyed all of it, but did not spread into any more of the building. This other corner back here, that part was originally a chapel, the part that's kind of sticking out there a little bit. That was a chapel under Napoleon Bonaparte. But the entire library was destroyed, over 100,000 books. When they set fire to the Hotel de Ville, every single piece of paperwork for birth certificates, marriage certificates, any civil document was destroyed. So if you listen to our podcast we did about Sarah Bernhardt many years ago, hers was destroyed. She was always a little loosey goosey on the date she was born and the year she was born. So when she was going to be given the Legion of Honor award, she had to prove that she was French, but she didn't have a birth certificate. So she was able to explain that, of course, hers was destroyed. So she made a new one, and she can make it the age that she wanted. We still don't know exactly. It's a little. There's a good few months difference and a few years difference, depending on what you see. But we're gonna head down here through the park. We're doing actually pretty good. The Louvre is closing here in about 15 minutes, so nobody else is going in. But it is lovely, lovely, lovely today. Anyway, we can't go up higher. There we go. Darn thing is working today, so that means next week it won't. We'll go through the center here. But this whole side, so the Grand Gallery here, was created to, as I mentioned, connect to the Tuileries. And so people usually always say that how the Tuileries was destroyed and nothing remains. But technically, the two pavilions at the very end of the on both sides of the building, you have the Pavillon de Flore on this side, and then on the other side, we have the Pavillon Massin. Those are technically the Tuileries. So those were there first. The Grand Gallery was then done in the 16th century to join it. And then this whole, sorry about that, guys. Hopefully you don't see that on your side when I lose you, or it's just a quick blip. But the Tuileries itself was created by Madame Catherine de Medici. So after her husband died, after he was killed, he died on July 10th, 1559, sorry. And she did not want to stay at the Palais de Tournelle anymore. So she moved back to the Louvre for a short period of time with her son, Francis II, and then she wanted to have her own palace built that was maybe with a garden that would remind her a little bit more of Florence. So where we're walking right now is technically outside of the city. So as you know, Paris was surrounded by 5 different walls over time. If you go down below here, so this is the carousel, Arc de Triomphe de Carousel, which is currently under construction, which is now is completely covered. But it was on the other side. And so if you go down below, though, you can see remains of the wall. You could also see a few pieces that were once on the Tuileries on the facade of the. Here, this is the Commune. So this is that week in May 21st to 28th, 1883. The very end of that is the Tuileries, and that entire thing was lost. And you see how the flames did on this painting go into more of the Grand Gallery. And they don't actually have the fire in the library lit there. But you can see down there, you see Hotel de Ville there on the left. You have the Palais de Justice there on the island burning, and you can see it all the way out there. They say that at that there was the 23rd and the 24th were incredibly hot days, and it was hot, and so the air was not moving, and so it was just the sky was red and cloudy, and then 2 days later it started to rain, so that actually helped them put it out a little bit. But they also burned the Palais Royal, which is just here on the edge of the painting over here. But it's pretty horrific. And that was you see the Palais de Tuileries there on the other side. So the carousel was kind of here as the entrance. So you see a gate all the way around it, a fence. And that was what it used to look like in the courtyard of the Louvre. There used to be houses and everything in there. They didn't start the fires of the Tuileries. But this is really cool. They have this kind of cool how they have this the carousel, and how Napoleon actually is inspired by the Constantin in Rome, those 2 arches in Rome. There's those two, Percier and Fontaine, the 2 architects for Napoleon. There's Mr. Vivant Denon. So I love how they put these up here for when they're doing construction projects. And they kind of do this so everybody could learn a little bit more about it, including me. I love it. And I did a video this morning walking around Notre Dame. They've updated the gate, the fence, with information. So the fence now has a lot more information about where they are in the project, and also about the specific craftsmen. So it has information about all of the men working from the lumberjacks to the people that are carving stone, and also checking all of the stained glass. Very cool. This is just a perfect little spring evening. So here you see, so where I'm going to be stepping here in a few steps straight across here, we would be standing inside the Tuileries. It goes from one side to the other. It's a good place. No, maybe people around. So you have the Pavillon Marsan right there. And so we would be in the very center of it. And it stretched all the way to there. Gilbert Delorme was the architect under Catherine de Medicis in 1564 that started to build it. He ended up dying in 1570. 1564 is when it was built. Did I say 1564 or 18? I got 18 on my mind. And she started to have it built. It stopped in 1588 because of the wars of religion. And then they picked it up again in 1594 by Henry IV until his death in 1610. And then Louis XIV and Mazarin started working on it again. And then Louis XV moved here in 1715 and stayed here till 1722. So you can see how this is technically, she wanted this because it was outside the city. And now this is pretty much smack dab the center of the city of everything in Paris. So we're gonna head down into the Tuileries. So when she had it built, she also wanted this garden created. And the garden was created to remind her of what she had in Florence and in Rome. And first it was only, of course, available for the palace and the queen and whoever she deemed worthy of coming in here. And then over time, only parts of it were closed off. And then they would eventually let open it up to the public under Napoleon. Napoleon lived here with Diane. And then they started to fill it with all of these amazing kind of outdoor museum. And the pieces that are out here, the originals of these statues, are in the Louvre and a Cour Puget. And the ones that are here are copies, mostly changed over in the 80s. So once the Cour Puget and the Cour Marly were created in the late 80s, opened in 1993. See, I keep saying 18. 1993, these were all put on display. But they're pretty amazing. And they all have little plaques on them, and they even have numbers, inventory numbers, that you can find the info on their website, on the Louvre website, to find a little bit more. But all the water is turned back on. So we're going to walk over here because there is a piece left of the Tuileries. We can make it. We got less than 15 minutes. The gardens, they have not started to change it out. They took everything out of some of the beds on the edges. We'll walk through here where I think these look like irises. But they always, the Louvre oversees the Tuileries. And next week we're going to come back here again. And so I'll show you more of this and tell you more about the statues. But the Louvre oversees the Tuileries. That's why it's so lovely. But they do a project every spring and every fall where the gardeners design the beds to match a exhibit, usually an exhibit in the Louvre. Look at those peonies. I love them. Come back here this week when it's going to be so sunny and see those opened. But they always design it so the next big exhibit that opens up June 7th is going to be one in conjunction with a museum in Naples. So that's going to be kind of great. So they usually do it so they pick a piece of art and they match the gardens to that. So all of the colors in a painting, sometimes a sculpture. All of the little cafes are open, and it looks like the construction on all of the the little pond. Hopefully it's finished soon. So we're here on the side. But the Tuileries was the bloody weed. And the buildings, you had the Tuileries were destroyed. They left it there for 11 years before they finally decided to start to take it down. February of 1883 is when they finally started taking it down. They held an auction, and the auction, look at this. This is what, oh, look at, look at what we can see. This is where they have all the flowers. They're getting ready. I think this is what's going to be planted. Let's check it out. Some marigolds. Look at these beauties. So this must be what they're getting ready to plant. I'll come by here this week. And we'll be here next Sunday too. But they ended up having a competition and an auction. And the winner of the auction, a gentleman named Adolphe Picard, he won. And with that, he was able in this auction to get the highest bid so that he was able to basically take all the stones. So everything that was destroyed, because nothing remained on the inside. Everything that was on the outside, all of the stones, with a few exceptions, like this piece. But the stones he took and he sold them, and he was able to, given there's even a chateau that used to be in Corsica, nothing remains of it now, but a chateau in Corsica that was built with all of the stones. But here on the very edge of the Tuileries, where really nobody goes, because this is kind of where they have all of the workers, there is this piece that was from the central part of the Tuileries, the Palais des Tuileries, and it was facing out here into the garden. And I will put on my website, because tomorrow's podcast episode is also going to be about this. So check tomorrow. I'll have some information and some photos. But when Marie de Medici, or Catherine de Medici, had this built, she also had all these little symbols of she was rewriting the story of their marriage to Henry II, making it sound like it was really a great thing. So up here at the top of the column, you have the Ionic column of the capitals, and that was used because that is considered to be the feminine capital. And so on here, when you see, check to get in there closer. You can see here on the second one up. Can I get it? Oh yeah, there we go. So you have different things on here. So there's a broken mirror there in the center, and this has obviously been updated a bit since it is from the 16th century. Like that part in there has been definitely updated. So the broken mirror is basically symbolizes the tragic nature of his death. You have the torches. The torches symbolizes their marriage. And this one I don't see on this one. There's pieces that are also original pieces that are down in the Louvre. And I don't see, you also usually see, there's chains up there. It's also other love, but there is one, the ones that are inside the Louvre have the scythe, and then it also has these ropes that are kind of tied into the form of a net. And those represent, and the scythe is cutting through it. So it's basically showing the end of their love. And there's also feathers, and that's supposed to be the queen's pain. But there's clubs, and I don't see those on this one. But the clubs on it also is supposed to represent, and this is the pretty funny part. But the clubs are supposed to also represent the strength of her rule, which If you don't know a lot about Catherine, listen to the episode we did about her because she was rather strong, and she also really enjoyed poisoning people, killing people, killing Jean d'Ambert. We talked about that last week. Look at this. This is new. It's like a bronze bamboo, and it's like two little seats. This is where you could find all that, figure out what they're doing this back here. Got all the secrets here of the Tuileries. This piece in here, well, as I said, we'll go to this next week. But the first time I saw that, we were like, is that really a tree that fell? And it's a huge sculpture in bronze. But it looks like I mean, it's the bark and everything on it. It looks like it's a real tree. So the 10 minutes will at least get across and up, at least on the bridge. But they also went over and destroyed the Palais d'Orsay. So where the Gare d'Orsay is, which is now the Musée d'Orsay, that was originally the Palais d'Orsay. And the Palais d'Orsay, first stone was laid in 1810, so it wasn't there very long. So, and it was created under Napoleon. First stone was on April 4th, 1810, and they set fire to that. And quite a few of the pieces over there, quite a few of the buildings all around it, including the Legion of Honor, which is straight ahead, which you can see the dome that inspired Thomas Jefferson and Monticello. Maybe I should get rollerblades and do this on rollerblades. No, I don't even know if I can roller skate anymore. It's been quite some time. But you see over there, you can see the Legion of Honor. That was also created under Napoleon. The building itself goes back to 1781. But Napoleon wanted, in 1802, he created the Legion of Honor. So he wanted an award that could be given to citizens, recognizing them for their greatness, but mostly it was also for members of the military. And so there is a museum in there now, which is really fascinating to see. It's very, very strange hours. It's like Wednesday to Sunday from like 2 in the afternoon until 6. But it's really interesting. And it has all the different awards past presidents have been given. And they're really, really cool. So you have the Musée d'Orsay, which is where the Palais d'Orsay once was, which was completely burned to the ground. So of the buildings, Tuileries is gone, the Hotel de Ville is gone, the Palais d'Orsay is gone. Most of the buildings that they destroyed are no longer here. The Legion of Honor, luckily, the entire inside of it was destroyed. When the Tuileries was destroyed, the shell and all the stone was still standing, and they debated again for over 11 years on what they should do, and they decided to take it down. But they could have, say, redone it. The Palais d'Orsay was also such bad shape, but in there, Chassereau, Theodore Chassereau, who was greatly inspired by Ingres and Delacroix, did some pieces in the grand staircase in the grand hall. And some of those actually survive, and they're in the Louvre in the Richelieu wing, kind of high above in areas that you wouldn't expect to look for them. So check it out, or when you come, I'll take you and show you. But you have right there the Legion of Honor, and there's a statue of Thomas Jefferson down there because he was inspired to have Monticello built just like that. I went there when I was 13. I thought about going when I was there recently, but it was a little farther out then. But the Palais d'Orsay was completely torn down. And then it took until like that was 1871. So they went back and forth for quite some time until the 1899. It stood for 27 years before they took it down. And then in 1899 is when they decided to turn it into a train station, and which would have been great because this would have been the only train station in central Paris. And so it opened so quickly. It opened in less than 2 years because the entire thing is done out of iron. It doesn't look like that from the outside because they put an entire shell on the outside of stone so that it would blend in with the rest of the neighborhood, which it does perfectly. And then it was in 1986 that it became the Musée d'Orsay. Look at this. So it's very sad. More things were destroyed in the Commune than was destroyed in the revolution in Paris. So the where you have the inside of churches and everything that was destroyed, this was the commune destroyed more structures. 581 buildings were burned. Of that, 186 were homes, and 32 of them were public buildings that were demolished and destroyed. There's some interesting weight training down there. That guy's using the other guy as a barbell, as weights. There's always people working out down here, especially if it's nice out. And pretty soon they should paint it. So you can see way down there, you can see on the lower K, they'll come through here in June and paint all of this. And they'll paint it all the way down to the Eiffel Tower. It's kind of cool. So we did it, guys. We actually made it the whole way down here. How about that? You can see Notre Dame straight ahead. And then you see the spire to the left of Saint-Chapelle. And you can see the dome of the Institut de France. And now we can see the Pavillon de Flore that was part of the Tuileries. So see, now when somebody says to you, oh, the Tuileries is gone, you can say, no, actually, not all of it. You want to see this side? And then I'll say goodbye and race home because we have to record the podcast for tomorrow morning. And so next week, we're going to do it again, kind of over in the Tuileries, because next weekend is the anniversary of a very horrible, tragic event. It was when the Nazis burned all of the degenerate art in the Tuileries while my poor girl, Rose Vallon, had to watch. How about look at, that's a great, look at this boat there to the one on the left. It's like, how great is that little place? Or the one on the right. You could have apero up there. Two of the boats I just ran into my friend Michael, and he was telling me that two of the boats below the Pont des Arts just sold for over €1 million. So you have, and then you have to pay. So you basically have to pay rent for your little spot here on the river. It's not just you drive up your boat and park it, but it seems like a good. It seems like a pretty good gig in the nicer months, especially if it's a little cooler down there. But I don't think I'd want to be there in the winter when it's really cold. But you see the Grand Palais over there that's still under construction. And then over here. So I will see how wind blown I am. But thank you guys so much for joining me today. I'm so happy that the gimbal was working this time. But thank you guys. Thank you, Sharon. It's so great to have you here. And I had this one was, I wanted to spend so much time on the buildings, but then I was like, I got to talk about actually what the commune was. So it is kind of interesting because it is, the stuff never ends. It's still basically the same thing happening in Paris and in France today. It's just not called the commune because all of these revolutions and everything we've had over time. But now, now there's always going to be something, and you have to actually appreciate the fact of a country that actually lets their people do that. So that's kind of nice. So thank you guys so much for joining me, and I'll see you here next Sunday. And check out the podcast tomorrow because it'll have more information about this um, on the podcast. So Jean, you could listen to it tomorrow. There's not a lot of stuff in English, though. That's the problem with some of these things. Some of this, when you get into deeper history, it's hard to find that information in English. So if you could read French, it's great. Or just look, see what you can find online and use Google Translate. So thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will see you next week.